Late at night, long after the last suit had left the towering glass building, a janitor named Daniel pushed his mop bucket down the empty marble hallway of a corporate skyscraper in downtown Chicago. By his side were his twin daughters Emily and Gracia, each just 6 years old, bundled in oversized hoodies, quietly helping him pick up stray papers and straighten chairs. They weren't supposed to be there, but with no babysitter and no choice, Daniel brought them along just like every night. What no one expected that evening was the moment Daniel, covered in sweat and bleach stains, would suddenly speak fluent Korean to a silent man in a suit and shatter every assumption in the room. The backstory of Daniel's life. Daniel Kim wasn't always a janitor. Born in South Korea, he had immigrated to the U.S. on a full academic scholarship, earned a degree in engineering, and had a promising future. But life unraveled quickly. After his wife passed from a sudden illness, he found himself a widower with 2 infants, crushed by medical bills and the weight of grief. With no family nearby, he quit everything to raise his daughters, the only job flexible enough to allow him to be both mom and dad. Janitorial night shifts. He never complained. He just worked, mopped, smiled when he could, and taught his girls to say thank you every time they left the room. They didn't have much, but they had each other and they had his quiet strength. The encounter, a strange meeting in the silence. That night, as Daniel gently reminded the girls to stop sliding on the wet floor, he noticed a man sitting alone in a dark conference room. The lights were off except for the city skyline glowing behind him. His eyes were distant, empty, haunted. Daniel hesitated. Then, with his girls quietly waiting nearby, he softly pushed open the door. "Sir, do you need anything? I can get someone a knife." The man didn't answer, but Daniel saw eyed up the red-rimmed eyes, the barely touched drink, the tremble in his hands. Daniel looked at his girls, then back at the man, and in perfect Korean, he said gently, "Sometimes, silence says more than words." "But you're not alone." The man's head snapped up, his eyes widened. He replied in Korean, shocked. "You speak Korean?" Daniel gave a small smile. "Yes, and I know what it feels like to lose everything." The twist of who the CEO really was. Unbeknownst to Daniel, the man in the dark was not just another employee. He was Ji-ho Park, the elusive CEO of the multinational tech firm that owned the building. Rarely seen, fiercely private, worth billions. That night, Ji-ho had flown in unannounced after getting news that his younger brother had died in Seoul. They hadn't spoken in years. Ji-ho had built an empire, but forgotten what mattered. And now he had no one left to go home to. And yet here was Daniela, a janitor with bleach on his shoes, who had nothing material, but everything that truly mattered: family, love, kindness. The CEO stared at Daniel's twin girls giggling in the hallway, whispering to each other about how daddy speaks secret superhero languages. Ji-ho chuckled, then cried. The emotional climax, a connection beyond status. They talked for nearly an hour. 2 Korean fathers, one grieving, one enduring. Ji-ho asked Daniel about his life. Daniel shared it all, not out of pride or pity, but with raw honesty. What struck Ji-ho wasn't just Daniel's story, it was his peace, his humility, his gratitude. As they stood up to leave, Ji-ho said something unexpected. "Would you come by the office tomorrow? I'd like to offer you a position." "Not as a janitor. I think we've wasted your brilliance long enough." Daniel looked stunned. "But why me?" Ji-ho answered softly, "Because in the darkest moment of my life, you were the only one who saw me, not the title, not the money, just a man, and you spoke to me in the only language I remembered how to cry in." Epilogue. At the turnaround. 1 year later, Daniel stood on a stage, holding a microphone as the company's new director of community relations, a role Ji-ho had created just for him. His twin girls, now in neat school uniforms, sat in the front row, beaming with pride. He had turned his life around, but not because someone handed him a miracle. Because he never stopped being kind. Because he never stopped showing up for his daughters, for strangers, and even for silent CEOs in dark rooms. Closing message. The moral. Sometimes, the world sees a janitor with 2 kids and assumes he's invisible, but kindness has a way of echoing in the places we least expect. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say, a broken bar, is something no one expects to hear, especially when it comes from the heart. Like, share, subscribe. If this story touched you, share it with someone who believes in second chances. Because every act of kindness ripples farther than we know.